The night the signal bars vanished, my life split into a before and an after. One moment I was staring at my phone, watching the last flicker of connection die beneath towering pines in northern Oregon, and the next I was standing in a forest so quiet it felt like the earth itself was holding its breath. That was when she turned toward me, eyes reflecting the firelight, and told me that out here, with no Wi-Fi and no witnesses, she wanted me to sleep beside her. The words hit me harder than the cold air, not because of desire alone, but because I knew that accepting meant crossing a line I had spent years building to protect myself. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us we're still human even when the world goes dark, take a second to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Your support truly keeps these stories alive. My name is Michael Carter, a 38-year-old search and rescue volunteer from Washington State who had joined a small wilderness retreat meant to help burned-out souls breathe again. I had signed up after a year of grief that refused to loosen its grip, a year since my wife, Rebecca, died suddenly from an undiagnosed heart condition, leaving behind a quiet house and a silence that rang in my ears. The retreat promised no phones, no internet, and no distractions, just nature, reflection, and strangers who were also running from something. I thought I was ready. I wasn't prepared for the way isolation strips you bare. The group was small, 6 adults led by a guide named Thomas Avery, a soft-spoken former pastor who believed the forest could heal what cities could not. Among the group was her, Hannah Miller, a travel photographer from Colorado with tired eyes and a smile that seemed practiced, as if she'd learned how to wear it for survival. We spoke little during the hike in, exchanging polite nods and shared glances when the trail grew steep. By the time we reached the clearing where we would camp, my legs ached and my heart felt strangely lighter, like the trees were quietly taking some of the weight. The first night passed without incident, but the second night changed everything. A sudden storm rolled in, forcing us to move our tents closer together. The wind howled, rain drummed against canvas, and the campfire sputtered but survived. Thomas assigned sleeping arrangements to keep everyone safe and warm, pairing tents to share heat if needed. That was how Hannah and I ended up near each other, separated only by thin fabric and the unspoken tension of two people who sense familiarity in a stranger. As the storm eased into a steady whisper, the forest felt intimate, almost conspiratorial. Without phones or clocks, time blurred. We talked quietly about our lives, careful to avoid direct quotes, letting the conversation flow like a confession without a priest. She spoke of constant travel, of hotels that all felt the same, of loneliness hiding behind adventure. I shared my loss, the way grief can sit beside you at dinner and follow you to bed. The air grew heavy with things unsaid, and when she leaned closer to the firelight and told me she wanted me to sleep with her, it wasn't a demand or a seduction. It was a plea for closeness in a world that had been unkind. I was shocked not because I felt nothing, but because I felt too much. Desire tangled with fear, longing wrestled with loyalty to a memory. I had promised myself I would not use another person to fill a hole that grief had carved. The forest seemed to listen as I struggled, the crackling fire marking each second of indecision. I told her, gently and honestly, that I couldn't give her what she was asking for in the way she deserved, not while my heart was still learning how to beat without breaking. Instead, I offered something simpler and, in that moment, braver. I suggested we sit together, share the warmth, and let the night pass without crossing lines that would haunt us later. She agreed, and we sat shoulder to shoulder, wrapped in blankets, watching embers glow like small promises. There was intimacy in that restraint, a quiet respect that felt more healing than anything else could have been. Over the next days, the forest worked its slow magic. We hiked through moss-covered trails, cooked meals over open flames, and listened as Thomas spoke about forgiveness. Of others, yes, but mostly of ourselves. Hannah and I grew closer in a way that surprised us both, not through touch, but through presence. We laughed, shared stories, and allowed silence to exist without rushing to fill it. The challenge wasn't resisting desire, it was learning to trust that connection didn't have to be transactional. On the final night, the sky cleared completely, revealing a spill of stars so bright it felt unreal. We lay on the ground, staring upward, breathing in the cold, clean air. I realized then that the forest hadn't taken my grief away, but it had softened its edges. Hannah admitted she no longer felt the urge to run, at least not tonight. We both understood that whatever this was, it didn't need a label or a promise, it just needed honesty. When we hiked out the next morning, phones buzzing back to life felt intrusive, almost rude. We exchanged contact information with a smile that carried no pressure. Whether we would meet again didn't matter as much as what we had already given each other, proof that two broken people could choose kindness over impulse, respect over escape. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who believes in healing, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement tells us these stories matter. Before the ending, I have one special request for you. Please comment below with a single word that represents what this story made you feel. Hope, peace, courage, or something else entirely. Reading your words means more than you know. I returned home changed not because I slept with someone in the forest, but because I didn't. I learned that healing sometimes comes from choosing the harder path, from sitting with discomfort until it teaches you something true. Out there, with no Wi-Fi and no escape, I found a quiet strength I thought I had lost forever, and that strength carried me forward into a life that, at last, felt possible again.